Good afternoon and welcome to today's Spotlight session, Better Budgeting. My name's Neil and I'm a Key Account Manager here at RotorReady, part of the wider customer success team. You may or may not be aware, we've run a number of these sessions over the past 12 months plus. The idea being is to delve into specific areas of RotorReady, the aim of which is for you to get the most out of the system. All previous Spotlight sessions are available via our knowledge base. Today's session shouldn't take any longer than 10 to 15 minutes. There won't be a live Q&A, but if you do have any questions, please feel free to contact our support team or your account manager via the usual channels. This session will also assume, as normal, that you're a regular user of the system. So, today's session, better budgeting. What are budgets and why bother with RotorReady? So first of all, budgets are a financial plan for a defined period of time. Typically with RotorReady, what we would see is that period of time is the financial year for the year ahead. Adding budgets will enable you to have a comparison, a visual comparison in the system as to how you're performing. So unlike with forecasts, which take into account events that can't be accounted for with budgets, for example, unseasonably good or bad weather, forecasts are added typically closer to the week in question, whereas your budgets would be mapped out for that whole 52-week period. You'd also be able to control your expenditure using budgets, or at least have a guide, and also establish priorities for that financial year ahead. So the values that you can, or the metrics that you can enter into RotorReady are, as shown on screen at the moment, mimic cost control. So they mirror, sorry, not mimic, mirror cost control. So the metrics that you see in cost control, they are mirrored with the budgeting metrics that you can upload to the system. These metrics are held weekly in RotorReady. So for a typical financial year, you'll be looking at a 52-week breakdown, and the values will always be supplied or and decided by the client, i.e. you guys. All the budgets will be visible as well when drafting your rotors, which what we're going to do is take a closer look at that and how it can actually help you with your wage costs, etc. in the system. So here we've got a real world environment and you've got a rotor on screen. What you need to do to expose the budgets when you're drafting a rotor is click on the hours and wages button, and then there's this little toggle down here, and what you can see is the cost control overlay expands out, and you can see the budget values that are entered into the system. So this is a crucial main benefit. So the management team at site level, they'll be able to see, as they're drafting a rotor, as they're adding shifts to their site, whether they're keeping within what was budgeted for them at the start of the financial year, or whether they're indeed going outside of it. Once drafted, typically rotors are published and they drive the values that are shown within cost control. Also, you can see there will be one consistent theme. If you're within budget, the numbers will show in green. If you're outside, it will show in red. So if we quickly go to, well, if we navigate to cost control, if you can imagine, you've drafted your rotor for the week. That's what drives these values in cost control. I'm not going to go into cost control in too much detail. The reason being is the previous Spotlight session covered that in greater depth than here. However, what is prevalent and to this session are these values you can see here on the right hand side. So these are the budgeting values uploaded to the system. As I mentioned before, if they're green, they're inside of budget. If they're red, they're outside of budget. So also one other point of admin, if you know you've got budgets uploaded onto the system, but they're not displaying here for whatever reason, just click settings, go to show sections, and there you go, you've got the little tick box for the budgeting comment. Now, these budgets help you as a guide for when you're initially drafting and forecasting your rota. You can add the sales values in to fall in line with your budgeted values, for example. And then as you go through the week, you can also compare how you're actually performing to what the budget that was set out at the start of the year. Now, the budgets themselves are held within the HQ part of the system. So if we return to HQ now, if we just navigate to reports and tools, and top row, furthest to the right cell, just click on budgeting. And what you can see here is a breakdown of all the sites on this realm, and you can see the budget that we were looking at just there. Click into it and you can see all the weekly detailed. It might be worth noting here as well that this is a very simplified example. All weeks values are the same. More realistic scenarios, you would obviously see variations between sales budgets, wage budgets, etc. So just bear that in mind. This is a very clean example. If you wanted to edit the values that you have in the system for the future, maybe, then you can edit them here. Just always, as with anything, remember to hit save when you close it off. And also you do have the option of editing your budgets manually. So if we go to a site without a budget period, click on new period, give it a name. So we'll just call it annual. I'm going to start it on the 3rd of May, and I'm going to do it for 35 weeks. Take me up to the end of the calendar year. So I'm imagining the financial year ends at calendar year end, and then just add period. Now, you'll notice on screen that the system actually gives you some base values. Now, don't worry about that. You can go in, as I showed you before, and edit. If you wanted to as well, you can also associate your values with your individual cost streams. So the cost streams that we have here are dry and wet. Typically 2 cost streams that are very common within the hospitality sector, and you can associate your budgets with those. And then, as with anything else, just remember to click save and close, and then those values will be saved. And when you go navigate back to site, those values would show at a site level. So in terms of the budgets, that's pretty much it from a look at it in the system. In summary, the budgets will help you forecast your weeks and your months. You'll be able to visually cross-reference, be able to hopefully avoid any overspend on labour costs, etc. And also, it will really give you actionable insight. An example of this is if a manager's really busy and they've just got to get a rota published, they may not adhere to the budgeting values that have been set to them. If they mark the rota for approval and it goes to a more senior colleague, maybe an area manager, they may notice this and they can take corrective action there and then to avoid falling outside of the budget from when the rota, before the rota is published. As I said, as well as being able to upload your budgeting values manually, we would also be more than happy to do so on your behalf. Now, if you wanted us to do it in bulk for you, please contact your account manager, who will happily supply a template for which you can populate your values onto, and we'll get that uploaded in bulk for you. That's it for today's session. I hope you found it useful. As with all other Spotlight sessions, if you have any questions, please contact us via the usual channels. The next session on the 26th of August at 3 p.m, we'll be looking at shift types. So we'll be taking a closer look at shift types from different points of view. We'll be exploring the setup, how they link with other features, and the effects of the shift hierarchy has on them. We'll also be taking a quick look into one of our newest features, shift recommendations. So hopefully you found today's session useful, and I look forward to seeing you on the next session. Bye for now. Have a great day.